Hey, today's morning medicine is cadmium sulphuricum. Cadmium sulphuricum is titration. Anyways, cadmium sulfuratum is found in nature in intimate association with zinc. So zinc, they have they're found together basically in nature, which it nearly resembles in action. So zinc and cadmium sulf have the same actions, a lot of the same actions, but there's some differences. But cadmium acts more powerfully than the zinc. Cadmium sulf is a cross between bryonia and arsenicum. It has the desire to keep quiet of bryonia, to not move. Movement is the worst thing for bryonias, with the exhaustion and stomach irritability of arsenicum. And that's from Kent, a homeopath, back in the 1900s. So, uh, yeah, you know, if you're looking up cadmium sulfur situation, you might encounter bryonia, arsenicum, and zinc, and then you'd have to differentiate between them. And I'll talk about how that differentiation works. The major use of cadmium sulf has been as an antidote to severe side effects of cancer therapy. So anybody going through chemo, especially chemotherapy and radiation treatment. So any of those treatments, it is quite a great. I had a lady recently doing that, and I think I bought it from my uncle when he was going through cancer. Yeah. Anyways, I had bought two bottles of it, two jars of it, and I gave one to a friend of mine that I used to go to church with. His wife was going through chemo, and I said, I took that over and said, here, have her take this when she takes before chemo. You would take a few doses, and after chemo, you would take a few doses to get rid of that sickness, that nausea, and all that stuff. The major use of cadmium sulf has been as an antidote to, okay, the cancer therapy, radiation, and chemotherapy, which can cause weakness, emaciation, so they feel real weak. They're emaciated, so they're losing weight, nausea, and vomiting. Now, liver damage, hair loss, anorexia, and which speeds up the time of death. So, yeah, you know, they're basically going after killing, and that's the difference between allopathic medicine. There's my kitty cat that was sick, looked like she was dying. Everybody thought, and I gave her aconite, and it perked her up. She still has nose stuff, and so does my other cats. They're all sneezing, and they got a lot of mucus coming out of their noses and stuff. But so, anyways, with this emaciation, allopaths have a war on cancer, a war on drugs, a war on whatever. Homeopaths, we are treating the person trying to strengthen their vital force. So when they go in with this chemotherapy and this radiation, they're actually destroying a lot of the person's vital force or immune system to fight off anything else. So yeah, you're losing weight, your liver's getting messed up, you have hair loss, you're emaciated, you're very weak, you're nauseous and vomiting, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I got cancer. I don't think I would want that kind of treatment. A lot of people have used diet. Start eating well. Quit eating all the crap we eat. Tomorrow's going to be caffeine. And that's going to be a good one for me because I have been doing a lot of caffeine lately. And I poisoned myself basically with the sugars because there was a lot of candy and my dad with cakes and I was eating chips and I was eating all kinds of garbage. It's hard not to do that. It's such it hits the same thing that alcohol and drugs hit in your mind, the sugars and everything. So, but doing that, I wrote down a lot of the symptoms of how I felt. I felt real sick and real weak and tired and miserable and, all that kind of stuff I felt from eating all that garbage. So now this week, I'm gonna turn it around. Now, I'm still doing coffee. I'll still do some coffee throughout the week, but uh, I'm gonna cut back on the sugars. I'm not gonna totally cut them out. There's a lot of sugar that's everywhere in our lives, but I'm gonna cut back on a lot of the sugars now and see how I start feeling. And then I'm gonna cut out the coffee and see how I feel. And the idea is, to take, it's like doing the proving. When you take this cadmium sulf, you get all these symptoms: the sickness, the emaciation, the weakness, the throwing up. If you keep taking it enough, you'll get all these symptoms that they're showing that it's good for. So as usual, anything that a substance will do in a healthy person, if you see a person that has those symptoms that is sick, you would give that that substance homeopathically to overcome that sickness. So I'm going to, once I wrote down a lot of the ways I was feeling from the sugar and the garbage I was eating, all the crap I was eating, and now I'm going to go in and eat a healthier diet, and then write down the difference and see how I feel. So yeah, I just want to do that, and then I may do a I know I'm going to do a sugar challenge. I've got a whole course on sugar, eating sugar, and I'll do a challenge on that. And I'll invite everybody to come challenge themselves to see, you basically will write down how you're feeling the way I'm doing, or how you're feeling off the sugar, and how you feel when you eliminate some of the sugar, and, all kinds of things like that. So I want to do that because, I definitely want to get away from sugar. I know that's, your teeth rot, your innards, I mean, sugar with cancer is a big thing because cancer likes those high uh, acidity of a person. So the high acidity comes from eating a lot of sugars and all the garbage we're eating. So if a lot of people have turned around their cancer from eating healthy greens and, a lot of healthy foods, so I'm gonna turn that around too, because I got garbanzo beans. I actually have stew with beans in it, mushrooms in it. I'm gonna start eating a lot more greens and healthier stuff this week and see and turn it around. Stay away from the cakes my dad makes, and definitely none of that candy and cookies and all that crap. So, all right, so um, it's also good for a cancer miasm. So, you know, once again, you have to be susceptible to cancer to get cancer. You have to be susceptible to a flu to get the flu. So why does the flu come in? And in the family, you know, uh, so many people get a flu, they get really sick. Someone may get a mild symptom of flu and not get so sick, so they're not susceptible. So anybody, you have to be susceptible to certain things. But if you keep throwing junk in your body, all the breads and the cookies and the cakes and the boxed foods, and you're not getting nothing alive, then that can be a problem. That's what can cause you. But a miasm from cancer, and you'll see it run through a family. As doctors will ask, do you have cancer in your family? Do you have, what kind of things of your high blood pressure? All these different things. Um, so it's a broken down constitution from cancer, chemotherapy, radiation, all that kind of stuff. And there was a lady on one of my groups that I'm in, and she was saying, urgent, medicine for sick people from cancer, radiation, and all that stuff. And I just put in cadmium sulf, and I told her, I went in today and I said, listen, I'm doing cadmium sulf by chance, and maybe tune in and listen to it and see if it's medicine, because not, the chemo and the radiation, usually cadmium sulf will do it, but it can be, everybody's different. Everybody's, we're not all the same. So someone may need a different medicine for their cancer. There's quite a few different cancer remedies. So you have to pick and choose according to the symptoms that the person's getting. So these are the symptoms of cadmium sulphuricum: stomach cancer, especially stomach cancer. That's a 3. Chemotherapy and radiation. That's a 3. Yellow fever. Yellow fever has a lot of the same symptoms of nausea and emaciation and all that. So anybody having yellow fever, I would even think cholera, I don't know. But extreme prostration, so they just are weak, not moving, they're losing weight. I don't know why emaciation's not up there, but they're losing weight. And the big one is that's a 3, that extreme prostration, not able to move. Uh, the other part is chilliness and coldness. They, no matter if they get near a warm fire and everything, and it's probably anemia or something like that going on, but they have chilliness and coldness. That's a big, that's a 3 also. That's a big sign of needing cadmium sulphuricum. Better eating and rest. So now this person usually can't eat because they're just not, food doesn't taste right and all that. But eating and rest, worse motion. Now that's a bryonia symptom. That's why bryonia, as you'll see, is kind of in there with it. Stimulants. They don't like stimulants like alcohol or coffee or all that stuff. And this is good for alcoholics too, that are having stomach issues and throwing up and all that kind of stuff. And the real big one is vomits black blood, vomits mucus, green slime, black vomit, or not black blood, but black vomit. Cold, they don't like stimulants, motion, cold, sunshine. They don't like when they wake up in the morning. Mornings are rough for them. And swallowing. They have a hard time swallowing, as you'll see the throat stuff. Ill effects of chemo, the causation is ill effects of chemo and radiation. Poisonings, any kind of poisonings, any kind of toxic things like lead or anything like that, any toxic poisonings that has this throwing up and this emaciation and all that stuff, any kind of poisonings, cadmium sulf. Vaccinations, if you have a problem with vaccinations, usually it's like thuja and a couple other ones, but cadmium sulf can be considered with vaccinations. And from grief, any kind of grief, loss of whatever, work, loss of someone, loss of love, loss of things. So grief. Okay, the mind, horror of solitude and work. So they don't want to be alone. It just petrifies them to be alone. Uh, and any kind of work, that's where this being prostration, any kind of you got to do mental or physical work. It just really have a horror of it. Dullness and anxiety. That horror is a big one because a lot of people, work just wears them out, or work is, whatever. It's just they're not into it, whether it's mental, physical, and it could be one or the other or both. But this one has a horror of it, and they have this horror of being alone. Dull anxiety. So there's an arsenicum symptom, that anxiety. And that's why arsenicum will be another one that is considered along with cadmium sulfur situations. Dullness and anxiety. So their mind is just dull and they're very anxious about probably their health and different things. Being approached. So they don't want anybody coming near them. Now that's an arnica symptom. Anybody comes to touch somebody, an arnica patient will pull away. And this is the same thing. Someone approaches them, they just back off. Abdomen is sore, tender to panic. To panic is distended, a lot of gas basically. Pain with vomiting. So the stomach hurt, or the abdomen hurts with vomiting going on. And pressure. There's a lot of pressure down in the abdomen. Back feels like lungs adhere to the chest. So I don't know why that's in the back. It should be in the lung area, but feels like the lungs are sticking to the chest. Tingling in the back and weakness of the back. Chest contracted with asthma, worse squatting. So anytime they squat over or bend over, that asthma, their breathing gets worse. Rheumatic pains in the chest. So you think of rheumatism in the joints, but there is rheumatic pains can be in the chest. At this point, I wanted to go down to breast. Breast, inflamed nipple and erysipelas, which is a rash on the breast. A breast rash and inflamed nipples. Nipples are very red and uh, hot and sore or whatever, like burning, inflamed. Lacination uh, in the ears and pressure behind the ears. So there's pressure behind the ears, and lacinating is like a cutting pain in the ears. Abnormal hearing and vision. So their vision's abnormal and their hearing's abnormal. Opacity of cornea. That's a 3. So it's like kind of clear. Opacity is like a clear look. That's a 3 from injuries or inflammation. So they either have inflamed eyes, the cornea is inflamed, or if it was injured. And there's a few medicines for injured. They have blue circles around their eyes, and they have night blindness. So they can't see well in the night. You'd consider cadmium salt. Facial paralysis on the left side. And they have their mouth is distorted from the paralysis, and that can be in a stroke. That can be that kind of situation. No female. Thirst in, wait a minute. Oh, this is still face. Grayish complexion. So their face looks like a gray color. That's quite a sick look. Blue circles around the eyes, grayish look in the face. No tongue, huh? Tongue. We'd have to get down to the mouth. Nope, no tongue. Usually you look at the eyes, you look at the face. Uh, these different things will start you thinking before you even ask questions or find out what's going on towards a medicine. So this grayish complexion, the blue circles, um, the opacity of the cornea, it's kind of like clear looking, and they have swelling and spasmodic movement of their upper lip and the trembling of the jaw. So if you see these things, a person coming in, you'd be right away considering cadmium sulf. So this can be like an epileptic type of situation, because I think epilepsy is somewhat considered with this medicine. Thirst in bed at night. They're thirsty and they're hot. So they're very hot and thirsty, especially at night. Head, hammering and heat. So hammering is, I know belladonna has a throbbing, hammering type of situation, and there's a few of them that have that type of headache. And they have heat. Inflammation of the brain, which would be like hydrocephalus and meningitis and things like that. So the brain's inflamed. And like I said, strokes, that would be that spasmodic movement and the distortion of the mouth with paralysis of the face. The upper lip uh, has a movement, and there's trembling in the jaw. That can be from strokes and things. Tingling and digging in the head, pulsation in the temples. So there's that hammering, pulsating. Palpitation with constriction of chest. So there's a lot of constriction in the breathing and the heart palpitating. Rawness and soreness in the urethra, urine mixed with pus and blood. And they have a gripping in the kidneys. So the kidneys, they feel like there's a gripping pain there. Limbs, suppuration of axillary glands. So the glands under the armpit are basically suppurating. They have pus coming out of them. So there's a lot of gland things going on with this, and that's when you have cancer, that a lot of times the glands do get affected. Swelling of arm bones. That's interesting. The bones in the arm are swelling. Chilblains, that's, from getting cold. Their fingers and that get, or wherever, toes, get very itchy and that from them being cold. So it's good for chilblains too. Cadmium sulf. Tearing pains in legs and calves have cramps. So a lot of times carb has that cramps in the calves. Magnesium's good to get rid of a lot of that. Magnesium taken physically, not, and it can be homeopathically, but calcarb I would give for a lot of that cramps in the calves. Tearing pains in the legs, though, these pains are just tearing. The arm bones are swelling. The axillary glands are suppurating. Liver sore. That's it. They got a sore liver. So the liver's having problems, the kidneys having problems, and they have rheumatism. Oh, yeah, this is part of the limbs too. Rheumatism of the feet and hands. So the little bones in the feet and hands have rheumatic pains. Numb thighs. So the thighs are numb. The uh, calves have cramps, and the thighs are numb. Trembling of knees. So I guess when they're standing, and probably when they're sitting, but there's a trembling of their knees. Nothing for the male. Aphthe on lips. So that's most likely a herpes type of situation on the lips, which we call cold sores. Esophagus is constricted, so the esophagus is, you can't have a hard time swallowing, and baptisia has that those symptoms of constriction of esophagus. Intense nausea with pain and salivation. So there's a lot of salivation with this nausea. Mercury has a lot of salivation, so you'd be considering that with if you're looking up them symptoms. Nose polyps, Oceana, which is the what's that called? Um, Rhinitis, yeah, rhinitis. So a lot of they have polyps in their nose. They have a stuffy nose from rhinitis. Nose infection, decay of nasal bones. That's a pretty big one there. Any bones in the nasal, if they realized they were decaying, you'd consider cadmium sulf. Obstruction and swelling, and that's that ozonea, which the rhinitis. That it's just obstructed, and it's swelling. They got polyps, which is a 3, and the rhinitis is a 3, which is Oceana, basically. Lots of terms. You don't need to know all these terms. This is why I try to tell people, I'm not a certified homeopath. I don't want to be a certified homeopath. And I think that's my superpower because I can teach others how to utilize homeopathic medicine for their family's illnesses or for their cat, like I did. My cat was mouth breathing. I showed the cat when I was on a call with the homeopaths in UK, and they said, "Oh man, I never seen a cat mouth breathe." And the one vet lady said, that's very dangerous. You better get them to a vet. That can be heart stuff." But I'm just realizing, the week before, she had so much mucus. It was just dripping and hanging down out of her nose, way down low. It was just lots of mucus hanging out. And now my other cats have all that. I gave her aconite, and she was no more mouth breathing. Now she was sleeping. And she wasn't moving. So now she's moving around. She's eating again. She's sleeping without mouth breathing. She's still sneezing a little, and all my other cats are sneezing. So I took some aconite, threw it into some water, a bowl of water that they have, and I stirred it up with my knife 100 times. And now when they drink it, they all get aconite. So tried that. They're all still kind of sneezing. Seem to be getting better. Um, and then I think I did a couple other. I kept looking for a medicine to see what can because I was giving Allium Cepa at first to my one cat, Sassy Pants, the one that follows me in the woods. I was giving her Allium Cepa, so that cleared up all that heavy mucus coming out. Allium Cepa is onion. You cut it, your eyes water, your nose runs. That's what was going on. Gave her Allium Cepa at first. That cleared up. Now it's stuffed, and she's not able to breathe. So someone when I was on a call mentioned aconite, and I thought, let's try it just to see. Well, it cheered her up. Now she's up, moving around, eating, and all that. And then I've been looking to see, okay, what else would go well with these cats sneezing? You look under nose, you look under sneezing. Doesn't matter if it's a cat, a human, whatever. You can't ask them questions, but you can observe what's going on with them. So, where was I? The nose. Okay. Rectum, clots of blood from the bowels. So there's a lot of blood down there. Stools are bloody, black, and offensive. So there's not only black vomit, but black, and this is most likely the bile from the liver. But the stools are bloody and black and offensive. They smell bad. Or they can be yellowish green stools with urine suppression. So that yellowish green, the urine wants to come out somewhere. So that yellow is the urine's not working. Let's see, kidneys. Rawness urethra mixed with pus and blood and gripping in the kidneys. That would say they're having kidney problems with urine problems. So if the urine is suppressed, you'll get a yellowish greenish stool. Now my wife has a flu along with the cats, and what'd she say? Greenish stool, and I forget what I gave her. What did I give her? I gave her I forget, but I gave her a medicine, along the lines with she had mucus, she had coughing, tickling in her throat, and green stools, I think she said. Yeah, green diarrhea. So I gave her a medicine, and, sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't, and sometimes people just, and cats and animals just have to go through the cold. Unless it gets really bad, then that's when you got to really hit it with the uh, homeopathic medicines. But the idea is no matter what you're doing, don't have, I don't personally like to take a drug that's going to suppress my symptoms, which is what the allopathic medicine does. I want a medicine that would cause those symptoms in me, like the homeopathic medicine, and then my body fights that medicine, my immunity gets stronger, and that flu, cold, whatever it is, goes away. And now my immune system's stronger, ready for the next flu, cold, whatever. But you keep giving antibiotics or whatever you're given, and you're getting weaker. They say, oh, they're super bugs. Well, they're not super bugs. It's just taking so many antibiotics, you weaken the immune system where, immune system says, oh, I got a flu cold. Well, the heck with it. I don't have to fight it. I just sit back, antibiotic will fight it, and I'm good to go. Now the next flu comes along and your body's not ready for, oh, there's more antibiotics. So now your immune system has not been fighting any of the colds, flus, COVIDs, whatever, and you get super sick, and they're saying it's a super bug. It's not a super bug. They just change a little bit each time. And as they get stronger and your body fights them, that's why I don't mind getting a cold, because now my body fought it. Now it's ready for the next virus, cold, sickness coming by. Whereas if you're taking antibiotics, now your body doesn't fight it, it gets weaker, and them bugs that just changed a little bit become detrimental to you. So you want to be careful with that. Too many antibiotics, and they know it. They're coming to the realization we got to slow down with that stuff. But we're in a kind of a bind because we've been using that for so long. What do we do? How do we make people healthier? And the other thing is, what are you eating? What kind of garbage are you sticking in yourself? This will, you're not getting the proper vitamins. I just read a book where the guy was using large doses of vitamins because people got themselves so sick from not having any vitamins in their system. They're eating box food, pizza, hamburgers from the store, from the fast food places and all this stuff. They're not getting any live food that's giving them vitamins. So he was using massive doses of vitamins for arthritis, for all kinds of different things, diabetes, everything, women's problems, all that stuff. He was using massive doses of vitamins, and they would come back and they're doing good. So yeah. Anyways, try to get some live food in you for your vitamin intake. And supplements are great. I started taking some supplements again. Blue, yellow, sallow, scaly, cracking skin. So the skin is yellow, probably from kidney stuff and liver stuff or kidney stuff. Blue is they're not getting the oxygen from the lung stuff. That's cyanosis, they call it. Sallow is sunken, and scaly and cracking. So a lot of cracking. Graffitis has a lot of cracking with it. That's another homeopathic medicine, graffitis. Itching when touched. So any kind of touch, and during cold. So they get itchy during the cold, and that's them chilblains. Chilblains, the skin, the person will get real itchy from having chilblains. But any cold and itching when touched. Unlike uh, sulfur is worse from the warmth of the bed. They get real itchy. And a couple other ones like that. Itching and better scratching. I don't have scratching spelled right there, but itching, better scratching, and a lot of times when you're scratching, it doesn't get better. It just gets itchier, but it gives a voluptuous feeling, like a real good feeling, voluptuous. Okay, protracted sleeplessness, carcinicum and colchicum. That has that, they just can't sleep. There's no sleeping going on. And I mean, I can't get everything in there, but I'm almost done anyways. Violent nausea, wrenching with black vomit. Vomits mucus, green slime. It can be green slime or black, depending on what's going on there. Stomach cancer, liver stuff. Craves little drinks of cold water, but vomit it immediately. So they take that cold water and vomit immediately. That's phosphorus, I'm pretty sure, symptom. Yellow fever, Croat H, which is a snake poison, and carbo-veg. Carbo-veg is very good for people that can't catch their breath. Ice and people that are cold. Temperature, icy coldness, camphor, barachium, and hilo. Those three medicines under that icy coldness, along with cadmium sulf, and with the yellow fever, Croat H, carbo-veg, and cadmium sulf. Sore, constant tickling, gagging, and nausea in the throat. Worse, deep breathing. So they take a deep breath and they start wanting to cough again, and they get nauseous and they're gagging. Faintness on rising. So this is that vertigo. In the room, in the room, the bed seems to spin. So they're laying in bed and they're just spinning, the bed's just spinning around like crazy. All right, so cadmium sulf. Let's do a couple comments. Cadmium patient is cold, always freezing, and all complaints are made worse by becoming cold or from cold changes in weather, from going warm to cold. And that's where everybody gets a cold. Everybody got sick, all these cats and the wife and everybody. Cadmium sulf produces weakness and tiredness accompanied by a cachetic state, which is, you know, emaciation, losing weight, and being, anyways. That stimulates the cacaxis of advanced cancer. So cases are pernicious anemia. So that's what's going on, with the cancer. They're cold, they are weak, all that kind of stuff. Mentally, it's underlined here, marked increase in irritability, and that can be like arsenicum, with a horror of solitude and of work. They just can't be alone. Sleep resembles the carbons and snake poison. Sleeps with eyes open, stops breathing, on going to sleep. That's at Carbo Veg, and Crode H is the sleep one. Awakens, suffocating. That's that apnea, sleep apnea. After sleep, annoyingly protracted, sleeplessness and insomnia. Cadmium acts intensely on the gastrointestinal tract, causing nausea, which is intensified by motion. That's a bryonia symptom. Later, there is vomiting of acid or yellow substances. That's liver stuff, kidney stuff. Accompanying these symptoms, the face is bathed in cold perspiration and there are cutting pains in the abdomen. Black vomit, like that occurring in the severe type of zymotic diseases. I ain't got time to get into all that. This remedy competes with arsenicum in ulceration of the stomach in alcoholics. Beer aggravates the gastric complaints. There is salivation with bitter burning in the mouth and throat. Sounds like mercury, another medicine. Fetid breath. Breath stinks, ulcers with dryness and burning, constriction of the throat. This remedy should also be good for vomiting of pregnancy when other remedies fail. So you got a woman always throwing up from being pregnant, cadmium sulf. Also for pernicious forms of vomiting, any kind of vomiting. Ipecac's another one with all that. There's a few other ones too. Black blood from chronic ulcers or cancer of the stomach. So you see that black blood, they may be having cancer of the stomach, cadmium sulf. The vomit looks like coffee grounds. Cadmium is a chilly medicine. There is icy coldness. That's a big keynote of this remedy. Coldness even when they're near a fire. Goosebumps after drinking with hot hands. So the hands are hot, they got chills, and especially after drinking water or anything like that. Sweat in axilla, which is the armpits, and they're cold all over, but they're sweating in their armpits and their hands are hot. Effects of a drought of cold air in checking sweat. So when they get cold air coming by when they're sweating, that's a real problem. The nasal symptoms are very important. No remedy has served better in cases of ozana, which is what I say that um, anyways, and polyps of the nose, and ozana, which is rhinitis. Um, Cutting, sharp pains are prominent, also a sense of constriction. Oh man, I would love to get into the comparisons, but cadmium ox, cadmium bryonia, pain and burning in stomach and vomiting, cadmium eye, itching of anus and rectum, felt during the day only, constipation, frequent desire, tenesmus. Tenesmus never feels like they're done, abdomen bloated. So those cadmium eye and cadmium sulf. And I did iodine recently. Zinc, arsenicum, carboveg, veratium would be a comparative for these. Zinc, but in zinc, the action is primarily on the brain. In cadmium, it's primarily on the stomach. So that's how you tell them two apart. That would be that brain stuff, inflammation, and all that I pointed out in there. In constriction across chest with palpitation, kali chloride. Weakness, nausea, vomit, and burning, arsenicum. So that's where arsenicum could be one. Black vomit, disorders of alcoholism, also arsenicum, and lachesis, which is a snake poison. In nausea and wrenching. So SR, bryonia, crote, cupermid, nux vomica, podophilia, antimonium tarp, and deathly nausea. Ipecac, tabacum in greenish gelatinous vomit. So that's how you tell ipecac from this one. Followed well by carcinosum, which is a cancer nosode, and belladonna. So you take cadmium sulf, you get so far, it's not finishing the case. You'd go to carcinicum or belladonna to finish out the case. Rolling of head with open eyes and cholera infantum. So a young baby having cholera, carboveg, loba infantum, and yellow fever, nitric acid, and elet in nausea and pregnancy. Okay, that's enough. I'm done. That's morning medicine, cadmium sulf. Tomorrow's caffeine, a big drug that everybody uses these days. That's morning medicine. You can age, but you don't have to get old.